Welcome back, Friar Tuck. This is this week's hobo tutorial. I gotta say, the one thing that irritates me most about Orlando is the amount of crotch rockets and people that just gotta like make that funny muffler. It really, it's really annoying. I'll just leave it at that. But anyways, what we're going to be talking about today is, and this is one of the reasons why I'm glad that I have the, you guys can't talk about this out in public clause, because I'm about to share some stuff with you that I technically am not allowed, what was given privy information to. And the only reason why I'm speaking about it is because it's behind a paywall and a place where I know that I can get my privacy. Okay, and I'm gonna, because in my last video that I did, well, let's see, today's Sunday, so the video that released Sunday, I talked some serious shit about cops, and I kind of, I can't say some of the stuff that I know. I can't talk about a lot of it in public, because if I do, I will have violated a lot of trust that I gained in learning the information I learned, because there are those within the police department that just, they know shit's going on, and they will sit back and have a talk with you. And I happen to be the guy that is considered intelligent out here. They think I'm smart for some reason. I don't, but they do. And then they also, know that me being just a stoner, that I'm not like these white dopers. I'm not twisted in the head. I'm just, I'm out here for my own reasons. And so what ends up happening is, then they feel like they can open up to me, because they've gotten to know me, and I've gotten to know a couple of cops over the years. Plus, I've had some experiences, and so, a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, this whole George Floyd thing caused the cops, all the bad cops to come and all the good cops to leave." Well, that may have escalated things, but this has been going on for a while. Ever since they instituted the nanny state, on top of the way that they do the police academy, those two things right there is when good cops stopped being good cops and just became cops that were following orders and doing their job. And this is when the society starts pushing back, starts looking at the police, because the police, when I was growing up, I looked at the police as a benevolent members of the community who, if I was ever in trouble, I could always go see, I could go talk to. They would treat me with dignity and respect, and they took a reasonable approach to things, because as I became an adult, I'm like, yeah, that was actually the right move. Didn't need to do this, which is what any other cop today would do. But instead, he went and handled things in a different way and got the situation resolved. Okay, and so police officers stopped doing that. They stopped actually problem solving. That's actually what their job is to do, is to not only to report and collect evidence, but to problem solve. When they have issues going on, they need to be able to fix the issue instead of trying to completely control the situation. Okay, and this is when the police force really started pushing back on the people, in a way to where they were going to be receiving pushback. And so what we're seeing now, with cops having to, back into a parking spot in a secluded area where they only have one way in, one way out, and they can watch it because they're all afraid for their lives, because now they're getting ambushed and other things. Well, it took a while to get to that point to where people are just like, I'm done and I'm fed up. And the fault really lies on the politicians, okay? The cops that are following the orders are just as bad as the politicians that are creating these nonsensical laws. Whether you realize it or not, the 1917 Trading with the Enemies Act that was amended in 1940 to include U.S. citizens as enemy combatants. You are now automatically, because you are guilty until proven innocent in our system. Show me where you're innocent until proven guilty. I can show you instances where that's not true. Okay, there is the ability to get convicted on hearsay is just crazy. It's out of this world. But you break a law when the moment you open your eyes and you claim to be a U.S. citizen, you are now an enemy combatant. You are now looked at as somebody that could be a potential danger to the government. And this actually stems all the way back to the Civil War. Congress declared war but never declared peace. And not only that, we went from martial law to martial rule. That's why we went from peace officers to police officers. So this has been a steady thing that in a lot of ways, it is the consequences of stepping away from our foundation. And what it was that allowed our system to be fair, to be able to benefit the few at the cost of the many. Okay, and so let me tell you a couple of things that I have learned over the years, or that I have experienced, to kind of help you understand why I feel the way I do. And there's a lot of being homeless, being out here, whether you have to bug out for SHTF, I mean, I've kept my nose clean for most of the 25 years. The only time I've ever gotten in real legal trouble was when I was housed up, and it was a hearsay conviction. There was no crime committed, but it was what it was. But let me go back to the whole police academy thing, because I think that's going to be the one thing that you may be that you may really see as you can see the bouncing ball. Okay, so I was in LA, and I met a dirty undercover, and he wanted to extort me for selling weed in LA. And yes, I was. And yeah, I know I don't do it anymore. It's not, the consequence is not worth it. I mean, again, we go back to choice training. Okay, I fully believe in marijuana over alcohol, using it in for medicinal purposes. I in a lot of ways, it's almost like a religious belief. But to be able to practice that religious belief because it's outside of the Christian norms, I'm not allowed to, even though they tell me I have the right to practice my religion. Well, it has to be a major religion. It cannot, I'm not going to get into it too much. But so I ended up getting picked up and went to jail. And one of the guys that happened to be my client was also an undercover, but he wasn't the one that got me. He was actually working the cover, or the set of Glee. Okay, because apparently in Hollywood, especially among the actors, there's a lot of drugs and stuff like that goes around, and so they had a guy on the inside. Okay, that's why this has got to remain private. Okay, and he was telling me, he's like, look, in the police academy, the first half of it is they teach you the Constitution, how to uphold it, so on and so forth. The last half of the police academy, they teach you how to convince people how to waive their rights, how to indirectly give it up. And so we've been psychologically conditioned for years to waive our rights when we should be standing and enforcing them. And when you stand and you enforce your rights, or you stand and stand true to what it is that you know to be right, well, these cops, there's a lot of them. These cops, there's a lot of them. That they just, they're judged dread. I am the law. I've ran into multiple instances of that, and just they get such a big head that now all of a sudden they come and they take it out on you. Okay, so my first negative experience with police, and I got to be real quick about this, but my first negative experience with police was when in 2011. My maintenance man was, he was just telling me whatever to so that I quit complaining about a leaky toilet, because it would sweat sometimes. He says, well, you got to do this. So we did that. And then it would sweat again. He's like, well, no, I never told you to do that. You do this. And it's like, and me and my wife at the time were like, no. So we both went down and made a complaint. Well, guess what? My wife was at work. I was at home watching the kid. And it was a hot July. I had the window open. And I had Bill O'Reilly on, and he was fighting with Laura Ingraham. So the maintenance man calls up and calls the police and says, it sounds like a man's beating a woman. I think he's trying to kill her. And so the police show up at my door. And apparently they've been listening for a while. I'm like, well, dude, you're listening to the fucking news. And they're like, yeah, well, we heard a screaming baby. I'm like, yeah, he's hungry. You got to feed him two-fisted. He's just like his dad. You know, he wants his dinner and I'm behind and he's bitching at me. That's what's going on here. And so they ended up making their way into the house. And when I tried to stop them, they were about to floor me with my son in my hand. When I called and I complained to the supervisor and I said, look, this is what was going on. There was no way. They're full of shit if they say that they had reasonable suspicion. Oh yeah, we sat out there, we listened. I'm like, dude, you're listening to a fucking baby scream and me keep saying, hold on, I will get it to you in just a second. You know, I'm trying to tell him to be quiet so that I can finish cooking dinner. And, you know, and I was told, well, and he supported his officer. I complained to another officer. They said, well, you don't like it, just leave. And I'm like, this is my fucking home. You work for me, asshole. You know, that really pushed my button. And I've seen instances like that. I had somebody say that I hit them, and because it was their gender and everything else that went on, I was convicted on hearsay. I never even touched the woman. Okay, I didn't even lay a hand on her. No, she yanked my keys out of the ignition. I lunged for her. I may have touched her, but I never confessed to touching her. But apparently the cop said I confess, which I did not. Okay, and I know enough legalese and enough legal terminology to be dangerous, and I know enough to know that cop lied and said that I confessed. No, he wanted a specific answer. Until he got that answer, he was going to keep asking the question until I finally caved in and gave him the answer he wanted. Okay, and so that prevents me from all kinds of employment. That prevents me, I can't even work at Domino's or Uber because of it. Okay, and not only that, you know, I can't get housing. A lot of places I can't get housing because of it. I was publicly humiliated over it, and it just all on hearsay. And you know, it almost cost me my business because I'd been in business for about 6 months when this happened. Okay, I was more. I mean, I'm not stupid enough to lay my hands on a woman. I mean, I grew up with that. That honestly, that's what irritates me is that I grew up with it and I detest it. And the fact that I was accused and convicted of it when I've never done it and I detest it, that's really what makes my blood boil. And that has really been what, and this happened in 2015. This is really what has brought me to the point where I have nothing to do with police officers. Now, I have met a couple of good ones. One in BNI, he was actually doing what I was talking about in the video, which is, you know, he had a business so he could have the interaction with the community so that he could have a positive reaction. He actually told me why he was doing this. Because at first I'm like, you're unjustly enriching yourself. But once he told me a story, I'm like, dude, that's the smartest idea I ever heard. I think more officers should do that. Okay? And so, you know, that way he got a balance so that he wasn't jaded and all that other stuff. And he's a decent human being. I mean, he does his job, but he's also a decent human being. And he will treat you as respectfully as he possibly can. Okay? So, it is what it is. But, you know, this has been my experience with police. And, you know, since George Floyd, they've only backed off because they're afraid. They're afraid because people are getting tired of the police force being militarized against them. And this, when you're in the homeless position, when you're out on the road, when you're unhoused, when you're bugging out, when it's SHTF, when you're dispossessed, okay, you are going to deal with the same antagonists that I have to deal with out here. Okay, and the thing is you are the most vulnerable. You are the one that is going to get the most flack and the most shit. There are a lot of people that get wrongly convicted because a cop wants to, you know, has an axe to grind or has an ideology, and he's letting his emotions rule the day and the way that he portrays it instead of just going with the facts. Because that's why I even have the shirt. Feelings aren't facts. Okay, it's important that you understand that. Because the thing is we are allowing ourselves to use feelings as facts in our modern society. And this is something that needs to stop. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about for this week's hobo tutorial, so that you understand that, you know, what's really going on and what you really will have to deal with should you ever come out here for whatever reason it may be. So thanks for watching. Thank you for being a subscriber, and I will see you in the next video.